Founders, good morning. I hope you're doing well. I use a variety of software to manage my individual investment activities. That includes most of my money sitting in a Robinhood account. I also manage some cryptocurrency. I used to be a Coinbase user and now went back to it because other platforms like Robinhood weren't allowing me to buy all the different cryptocurrencies that I wanted to own. So I went back to Coinbase to manage a lot of my cryptocurrencies. I even have a TD Ameritrade account where I used to buy some stocks through them and use some of their trading tools to analyze stocks that I wanted to buy. Just this past weekend, I looked at possibly opening a Wealthfront account because I wanted to leverage automated or robo investing for some of my investing activities. When I was looking at Wealthfront, I decided to take a look at another offering from a company called SoFi, and I was evaluating their offering and things like that. I even use other software when I'm thinking about making trades. For example, I use a platform called TradingView. TradingView does a lot of the same things that TD Ameritrade or some of these others do, but I like the user interface for the platform. It'll show me, the 52-week high. It'll show me the financials of the company and some nice charts that I can manipulate. I also use a website called FinViz, and FinViz is where I go to see which stocks are really having the largest amount of movement. And then I use, information about which economic news is coming out. So I use an economic calendar to understand our job reports coming out. All these things I use in my investment activities, but none of them were really helping me understand or see the full picture of things I care about in one platform. So in order to get that information aggregated that I cared about, I decided to create a template inside of Notion, which is where I keep all kinds of information about my business and other activities. And I wanted to share that template with you. Okay, so I call this my stock watch list template, and I built it just using some normal templates inside of Notion, but I customize each individual column for the things that I really care about. And you'll see a few of these things are things that just aren't easy to see inside of any of the platforms, particularly two of the columns that I'm going to show you. So I'll walk you through what I use. And the good news is that I'm going to provide a link in the notes to this type of template. This is my template, meaning the stocks that I'm watching. This isn't all of them, but this is an example. I'm going to provide you a link to a template. It'll have all this information removed, but you can access it yourself. And if you're a Notion user, you can use it. If you're not a Notion user, you could take a look at it and maybe build it inside of your own platform where you can watch things. So starting with, I obviously keep track of the stocks that I'm looking at using their stock ticker symbol. So this is United Healthcare, Netflix, Costco, Walmart, J&J, Home Depot, Lowe's, and Lynn. The list you're seeing here are things that I started to watch as part of when COVID was hot and heavy. I know we're still having some issues across the globe and in the US, but when it was hot and heavy, I was thinking, is there an opportunity to invest in some of these stocks? You would see others on here. So I did buy Pfizer, some Moderna because of the vaccines, those types of things. I did not buy any J&J. These are stocks that I don't own. The ones I own are being tracked inside my trading platforms like Robinhood. These are stocks that I do not own at the moment, but that I am, as the title says, I'm watching. So I then input the date that I'm watching them and when I started watching them. And the reason that's important to me is if I want to go back and see any of the information I haven't captured here, I can go back to that date in TradingView or another platform and just see how they were performing at the time that I wanted to track them. So the next column that I track is what was the price of that stock when I started watching it. So what was the price it is? And I can use this to sort of gauge if I had bought it at the time I started watching it, would I have made a good investment? You're going to see just about all of these, except maybe one, it looks like, would have been a great investment to make. So that's what this column is all about. The price at the beginning is what this says, or sorry, price at watch when I started keeping an eye on that stock. The next column is the current price. And so I update this only once a week. Otherwise, it's a little burdensome to update. So on every Friday, I go in when the market's open and I update the current price of the stock. So you can see United Healthcare, when I started watching it all the way back in November, was $321. It is now almost $409. Same thing for Netflix. Look at the difference here. You'll see it. And I'll show you the summary of that in just a second. And going all the way down, I just sort of go in on a Friday and enter where they are. The next thing I have is the 52-week high. Now, this is also another platform. So it's not like this wasn't captured in other platforms, but it wasn't captured in aggregate with the next two columns that I really care about. So the 52-week high, I just go in and pull it down. You can see almost all of these pretty close to where they are now. So that one's not as important to me. I just glance at it to see. What matters to me probably the most in this entire platform, this entire watch list, is the next two columns that I did not know or find a way to track inside any other software that I have. And the difference is this column here. So this is price at the beginning versus now. So what I'm basically doing is I'm taking the price at watch, this column here, okay? And then I am comparing it to the current price. So from the time that I was watching United Healthcare at almost $321, it's now $408.46. That is a per share difference of almost $88, okay? So as we work our way down, you will see that all of these that I was watching and should have bought, by the way, have been doing phenomenal. So I started watching Netflix at $490.46, was actually watching it well before this, but this is when I came back to tracking it. And now it is $631.70. I think that was as of this last Friday. That's a per share difference of $141. If you go down, you'll see there's quite a bit of uptick from the beginning of when I watched these in November until now. The only one that's not doing good is going to be Walmart. I watched it at almost 143. It's down to 139. So not a huge loss, but it's not where you would have seen it. Now, the next column is really significant to me, and I didn't find a way to compare this anywhere else as well. So this is now taking the 52-week high versus the current price. So you take the 52-week high, minus out the current price, or I'm sorry, the current price minus the 52-week high. And the reason I did it that way instead of 52-week high minus current price is this tells me the negative tells me in my brain that I'm off. I'm behind the 52-week high. Why does this matter to me? Again, you should always do your own due diligence, make your own investment decisions. I'm not an investment advisor. I'm managing my own portfolio. I used to be an investment advisor, but I don't carry those licenses anymore. The reason this column matters to me is I want to think about stocks. Are they too close to their 52-week high? That's what this column tells me, okay? If this number is small and they are getting very close, you'll see the closest one that's small is actually Costco. Their current price is $451, so right about 452. Their 52-week high is 460. Why does this matter to me? Because I tend to, we're going to get to that in a second, I tend to look for growth stocks, okay, that have room. Now, you might consider a lot of these what I would call value stocks, but I look for stocks oftentimes that have room to grow. If the current price of the stock is really close to their 52-week high, then there's not, at least in my mind, unless they break through that 52-week high, which is not common for these sort of existing companies, if they're too close to their 52-week high, there's not enough room for growth, okay? Now, when that happens, moving to the next column, when there's not as much room for growth, companies tend to need to pay a dividend because that keeps investors attracted, okay? So, and that is what helps determine whether I call it value or a growth stock. Now, that's my own definition, not using traditional definitions. You have to do investing a way that you feel comfortable with. So in the next column, I am tracking the dividend per share of stock that has been declared by these different companies. So if you look at Costco, it actually holds true to what I was telling you. It's really close to its 52-week high. Therefore, they have a pretty high dividend, okay? Now, one you could compare it to is Lowe's. This is Lowe's, the home improvement company down here. They're really close to their 52-week high, and they have not paid a very large dividend. So I use this information to think about my strategy. Sometimes I'll buy dividend stocks, okay, but usually my mode is to buy stocks that I think there has a good bit of uptick in them. And, or if they just happen to be paying a dividend, that's a wonderful thing. And then I have all that reinvested back into buying more stock. And the next two columns are just me tracking, again, my definition of growth versus value. And for me, that just means they are value if they're paying a dividend. That's all there is to it for me. Okay. I know there's other definitions. That's my personal definition. And then I put some notes in about why I was thinking about them. So you can see down here, Lin, Lin is Linde. I don't know if that's Lind or Lindy, how they pronounce it, but I heard about it by watching CNBC. It's a hydrogen company. I'm very focused on environmentalism lately. And I thought that could be a really good company. You can see that would have been a good call if I had made that investment. Again, these are stocks that I have not invested in currently because I'm putting money into other investments, but they are ones that I'm watching. So that gives you a flavor of how I track the stocks that I may or may not want to invest in. As other ones becoming interesting to me, I add them into the spreadsheet and I start tracking them. It also becomes a bit of a trading game, meaning I can look back and see, had I invested money in that stock, how it would have performed. And you can see would have had a very good track record with those stocks. So probably should have put some more money to work. So I hope you enjoyed that information. I'm going to put a link in the description where you can get access to a template that looks just like that. You can use it yourself. Again, if you have Notion, I highly recommend Notion. It's a great platform for managing your business and your life. Think of it as Evernote on steroids, if you know what Evernote is. If you don't have Notion, maybe you can still take a look at the template and create one yourself. You could do that in Excel spreadsheet. I just try and keep everything in one simple place. Anyways, until next time, hope that helps. Hope you find your voice. Have a great day.